Hello, everyone. Long time no see, but after a shorter hiatus than One Direction's, we are back. Bit of a programming update. Episodes will now be airing every 3 weeks instead of 2. In today's episode, we will be talking to Zach Weil about the draft lottery and draft implications, as well as what to expect when you're expecting a generational talent on your team from an Oilers fan perspective. Hope you enjoy. All right, hello everybody. Today I am here with Zach from his neutral Game Over Edmonton fame. How are you today? Well, aside from we're recording this a day after the Oilers got eliminated, so aside from that, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing about as well as you can be after, watching your team lose in a very unfortunate fashion. Not as heartbreaking as an overtime loss in game 7. It's one of those things, unfortunately, you kind of saw the writing on the wall as the series progressed. But I'm doing about as well as you can be. If you asked me a week ago if the Oilers got eliminated, how I thought I would feel, I thought I'd be like acting like my girlfriend just broke up with me. You know what I mean? Just like in bed, depressed, crying out. But sorry, can I swear?
Yeah, you can sorry, it's fine.
Okay. And just like super sad. But I've actually been way more positive than I anticipated. Like just looking at how they performed and who's doing what in like actual construction of the Oilers roster, like I feel very good about next season. I feel it's a little, I don't even know what the word would be, but like kind of cliche or like, I feel like just like a positive palm, like kind of that annoying guy just being like, oh, next year's our year, next year's our year. But like, I truly, truly believe that when you have players as good as the Edmonton Oilers do, that like when you go through this type of pain and this type of adversity, that like they will not take no for an answer. And I've seen these guys play possessed, and unfortunately, um, they was just they played well, but I just think they had a significant amount of bad luck and whatnot, and it just in terms of injuries. And you just gotta put that behind you, and next year you stay healthy. A couple bounces go your way. I really, really do believe that they're the cup favorites, at least in my eyes, but I'm biased. I'm not neutral, even though as my intro would suggest.
Yes. Yeah, those good players we will talk about later on. Obviously, Connor McDavid, the first overall pick in 2015, who has, had a pretty decent NHL career
Oh yeah.
so far. Yeah, at the age of 26.
I
I'm
believe I
sure. I
can
believe.
Google it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am
At
almost confident at that because
26 years old, he was born
26.
January 13th, 1997.
97. All right. Happy very belated birthday, Connor. Um, Yes, welcome to Growing the Game. We are talking about draft history, draft lotteries, first overall picks in general, considering now that the NHL season is over for both of our respective teams. The draft lottery also happened last week. The draft is the next big event coming up. Obviously, my team, the Canucks, have a bigger stake in that. Unfortunately, it's an 11th overall stake in that, but I believe in Axel. Patrick's going to pull out that Swedish magic. We're going to get a Swedish right hand defenseman, and everything is going to be fine. We will make this. Stop shaking your head.
I cannot believe the way the Canucks handled the end of the season. Because again, knowing what I know about like Connor McDavid and what a generational talent can do for you, and the fact that there was a guy from Vancouver, from that area at least, like in the draft, like how could you not be literally signing like Nico Koskinen out of the SM League or wherever he plays, or Switzerland, to be your goalie? And Miko's good. That's an unnecessarily slight. And Miko's probably better. I would have had a better season than Jack Campbell had this year. But no, like I don't know how you're not signing Anders Lindback or just like the most random atrocious goalie. Quinn Hughes, you got an injury. Pedersen, you got an injury. You're done for the year. You shut everyone down, because that is the type of player that like genuinely, especially with the construction and the pieces that the Canucks have, like you could put Connor Bedard in there and they could have a 25, 35 point improvement in the standings overnight, like easily. He's that good. And the fact that they just are like, no, we want Rick Tocchet and we want to finish ninth in the West because success. Like it just made no sense to me. Whatever. The Canucks are a mess from an outside perspective, but yeah.
Yeah, from an inside perspective, it is also terrible. So I appreciate that. Yeah, at the end of the season, I believe it wasn't just Rick Tocchet, it was Thatcher Demko coming back, which helped them, which I think that if he stayed off the roster for the last month or so, because he came back end of February, I truly believe if he had stayed off the roster, we would have had a better shot. But, alas, they played him. He went like 11-5-2 or something like that, or 11-3. It was something crazy because, he's one of the best goalies in the Western Conference. I could say that with confidence, considering a lot of the goalies in the Western Conference are Jack Campbell. Anyway,
Yeah.
Jack Campbell, Jonathan Quick, they exist. So, aside from that point, we're here to talk more about the Oilers, and then we'll get into some now history. Now history, that's the present. I know words. I'm a communications major. I should know how to communicate. All right, a bit of history. The draft lottery, or draft history of the Oilers. Edmonton was last in 2010, and they drafted first overall Taylor Hall.
Yep, absolutely.
Boston Bruins legend, Taylor Hall.
Edmonton Oilers legend. I love Taylor Hall. Every Cactus Club on Jasper Avenue legend, Taylor Hall. Like, that guy, the Oilers might not have been good, but he definitely had fun in Edmonton. So, that's all that matters. I love Taylor Hall. I really
until the Adam Larson trade. Anyway, 2011, actually bringing Adam Larson into this, Edmonton was last in the league again in 2011. New Jersey won, but at that time, they could only move up 4 spots from the 8th seed, so they selected Adam Larson 4th overall. First overall selected Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who recently got 104 points this year, and then scored 1 goal in the playoffs, which we talked about earlier.
That was unfortunate. Do you want me to talk about each guy as you go through them, or
sure? If you want to jump in,
sure. I was just gonna. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was honestly that was the year before Taylor versus Tyler. They weren't sure who they should pick. That was the first overall pick out of obviously 3 in a row. Taylor Hall. When they landed that pick, they weren't sure who they were going to take. Boston ended up getting Tyler Seguin. The Oilers ended up taking Taylor Hall, and I remember the hype for Taylor Hall coming in. Like, that was the first guy of it. What it was supposed to be like a 2 or 3 year rebuild. You still have the veterans. You got Sean Horkoff, Alex Hemsky, you got Sam Gagner there. You had, I believe, no, you don't have Ryan Smith at that point, but there was, I believe, Dustin Penner was there, and he was a 30-goal guy at the time. Nut job now, whatever. But like Taylor Hall was the first instance of like draft hype that like I can like even vaguely remember. And yeah, it definitely didn't pay off, and we learned our lessons the hard way. I remember Taylor Hall came into the league, 18 years old. A lot of people like too young, too small, whatever. Ended up having a number of issues. I know he got destroyed, but on a hit from, I want to say, Dalton Prout, someone on Columbus who I cannot remember for the life of me, and ended up putting out for like 40 games. He was a very reckless player, and the Oilers didn't have like the structure in their organization. Like, they were a mess, the biggest tire fire in the NHL. And they also had Jordan Eberle breaking in on the team that same year. It was both their rookie years. And instead of like having a lot of guys, Sid lived with Mario, and in the NHL, it's a big thing with veterans on the team. And you have all these other influences to kind of keep everyone grounded and everyone, whatever. The Oilers didn't have any of that. They had Taylor Hall, Jordan Eberle living together by themselves, going out every day. And who was the veteran on the team? It was Ryan Whitney. Everyone knows Ryan Whitney.
Oh, God.
Exactly. So Ryan Whitney's taking them, showing them the rope, taking them to Cactus Club, doing whatever, saucing them, beautiful passes that they're going down there. So that was the Oilers core. That was their veteran leadership. It was Ryan Whitney, Taylor Hall, and Jordan Eberle. So, yeah, that's
I wouldn't even call that leadership.
And then next year they added Ryan Nugent-Hopkins to that core, and Nuge was just Nuge was another guy. He was like 160 pounds, Mitch Marner sized. Again, everyone's like too small. Goes into the league. He does really well. Like, has one of his best years to date in his career. His rookie season, he had a hat trick against Vancouver, I believe, in like one of like the first couple games. Yeah, exactly. He was awesome. But the thing is with Nuge, similar to Taylor Hall, got a shoulder injury, only played like 60 games, and it ended up costing him the Calder Trophy, even though Gabriel Landeskog had the same amount of points as Gabriel Landeskog in 20 less games. But I'm not bitter about it.
Yeah, so, totally.
Those guys.
2012, Columbus was last in the league. Edmonton was second last, but they won the lottery, and they drafted first overall, Nail Yakupov.
Oh, and this is one where I think a lot of people that there's this misconception that Nail Yakupov was just a bust, like from the start, just a bust.
Mhm.
Absolutely not the case. Like Nail Yakupov had his flaws, don't get me wrong, but Nail Yakupov was a really, really skilled player. This Nail Yakupov came in the 12-13 season. Not only did the Oilers bring in Nail Yakupov, they signed in the offseason the guy who the GM at the time, at the press conference said he has Norris potential. We not only are we adding our first overall pick, we're adding a Norris potential rookie defenseman. That guy was Justin Schultz. A lot of pressure on that guy. They brought them in. Their rookie season, Nail Yakupov led rookies in scoring. Like he was really good. He was on the line with Taylor Hall. I don't believe it was Ryan Johnson. I think he was playing with Sean Horkoff as a center still at the time. Nail Yakupov was really good. Problem was the next season, Dallas Eakins destroyed the Oilers. Like he ran Nail Yakupov through the floor, ran Justin Schultz through the floor, ran Taylor Hall through the floor. Like he did so much damage to the Oilers organization that it cost them for like probably 4 or 5 years. Like Nail Yakupov went so far down. Like he fell off a cliff. He was really good. He had a hat trick, I believe, against Vancouver as well in one of the last couple games of the season to take the lead in goal scoring for rookies that year in 12-13. So Nail Yakupov had it was a fall, like fast fall, but those 3 first overall picks they had in a row, the hype going into like the next couple seasons was immense. Like it was immense having those guys on the team. I remember sitting there in 2012 when I was in grade 6 talking to like my student teacher, and they were like, yeah, the next Canadian team who'll break the cup drought for Canada is probably the Edmonton Oilers. Like, Hall, Everly, Nugent Hopkins, Yakupov. Like, how do you beat that top 6, right? Like, unbelievable. I remember having this conversation in 2012. Magnus Payarvi was there, Linus Omark. The Oilers released a letter to the season ticket holders where they're like, guys, I know it's been painful. We missed the playoffs the last 2 seasons, but just remember, have hope. And hope stood for Hall, Omark, Payarvi, Eberle. And we all know how that turned out.
Oh my God. That's honestly, I kind of love that. But at the same time, I love those like season ticket holder letters because they're always like the worst.
Absolutely.
They're always
the
worst.
Hype. They sold hope. They quite literally sold hope. And every year it was just buying hope and hope and hope. And this is like early on relatively into what Oilers fans call the decade of darkness. So, yeah.
Yeah. Hockey, the NHL is not Star Wars. Hope does not get you far. 2013, the Oilers finished 24th, which was 7th from the bottom, which got them the 7th overall Darnell Nurse, who is still on the team today.
Darnell Nurse. At the time, I remember we weren't sure who they were going to take. Was it going to be Valerie Nichushkin, Darnell Nurse? Obviously, I mean, Valerie Nichushkin had his ups, his downs, and whatever. The Darnell Nurse was a solid pick at the time. Yeah, and what else can you say about Darnell Nurse? Is he overpaid? Sure, by a couple million, but he is a really effective defenseman, and he didn't make the Oilers actually developed him well, because I remember, again, the criticism for the Oilers for a long time prior to Darnell Nurse was, they're bringing the guys in too early, they're getting hurt, and they're not really effective. They're not effective, right? And sorry, I keep getting texts, my watch started buzzing and I got distracted.
Okay.
But yeah, Darnell Nurse, he was developed really well. He was sent back to the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, where he was the captain for the GM Kyle Dubas.
Yep.
Darnell Nurse was a Sault Ste. Marie Greyhound, and he played there 2 more years before he went to Bakersfield and played the year there. Like he got proper development, and he's been a really good Oiler. This is the first pick where I can say like they did it well, and they kind of did it properly, and he has been an effective NHL player, regardless of the other
regardless of when he's paired with Cody Ceci. Anyway. Moving on. 2014, the first of the dynamic duo. Oilers finished 28th overall, which means they got the 3rd seed in the draft, and they drafted 3rd overall Leon Draisaitl.
Yep. I remember this because I was very upset actually. Because the last game of that season, the 13-14 season, was the last game of Ryan Smith's career, right? That was the game they played the Vancouver Canucks. They came back out on the ice.
Yeah.
They shook his hand, and I believe the Oilers won that game, right?
That sounds
I know the Oilers won that game. I know they won that game. Because they won that game, the Oilers ended up finishing lower in the standings than Florida. Florida ended up finishing where Edmonton was. If Edmonton didn't win that game, they would have finished in Florida's seed and they would have won the draft lottery. But the Edmonton Oilers beat the Vancouver Canucks in the last game. They lose the draft lottery. Florida gets Aaron Ekblad, who had I believe he had exceptional status in the OHL. He was really hyped up, and the talk around the Oilers is, you got Hall, you got Eberle, you got these guys. We need a defenseman. All we have is Justin Schultz, and Norris potential my ass, right? Like, he was starting to fall off that cliff. So we needed Aaron Ekblad. Like, I wanted Aaron Ekblad. We heard he was big, he was mean, he was physical, and he fell off the cliff. And they ended up picking third. And then there was a big discourse in like Oilers land, like, do we pick Sam Bennett or do we pick Leon Draisaitl? Do we pick Sam Bennett? Do we pick Leon Draisaitl? Sam Bennett, I believe, played in the OHL. Leon Draisaitl ended up played for the Prince Albert Raiders. So he was on a really shitty
And the
WHL team. Yes.
Eventually. Yeah.
But
sorry.
When he was, no, it's all good. It's all good. When he was drafted, he was playing for the Prince Albert Raiders.
Yes.
The only guy there other than him was Josh Morrissey. So he didn't have a lot of other pieces around him to help him put up points. And he still had like 104 points in like 60 games in the WHL. Versus, Sam Bennett, who was on a really good Hamilton team, I believe, at the time. And or Ottawa 60. He might have been on Ottawa. I can't remember. But anyways, there was people really upset that they always picked Leon Draisaitl at the time. If you look at the draft, like the TSN thing when he was drafted, if you look, it's like, 4 out of 5 skating, 4 out of 5 vision, 4 out of 5 passing, I don't know, like 2 out of 5 shot. And then they're like NHL hopeful Anze Kopitar. Like, that's like his best case scenario. He turns into Anze Kopitar, which Kopitar is good.
Kopitar is good.
I think I don't even know if Kopitar's had like over like 80 points in a season though. Like,
I will double check.
Like, yeah, like Kopitar is like a really good two-way center, and that's what they thought. Oh, Leon's gonna fill out. He's gonna be big. He might be that. And the Oilers were really excited. Like when they got him, I remember Stauffer was pushing him really hard on the radio show. So I was happy. Whatever Bob says goes in my world. So I was pretty happy about it. But yeah, when they drafted him, like there was a significant amount of people who were pretty upset. Pretty upset. Like, people wanted Sam Bennett. And yeah, it was really interesting. But no, Leon has come in and been phenomenal. And again, the first year they brought Leon Draisaitl in, they had no center depth. I can't remember if it was Dallas Eakins was the coach at the time still, but he said, I have no center depth. And the Oilers had Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and then Boyd Gordon. Like, that was their number 2 center. So they're like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take 18-year-old Leon Draisaitl right out of Prince Albert. We're going to put him in the NHL. And he sucked. He got destroyed. He had 1 goal and like 4 assists or 5 assists. I may have been 7 or 8 assists in like 38 games. Like, was horrible. Horrible. He was way too small, way too weak. He couldn't handle the NHL. It was way too fast for him. And they ended up, this is what a lot of people like, mismanagement, and again, more mismanagement with the prospects. They send him down after they burn a year of his ELC. So his deal expired a year earlier. They sent him back to Prince Albert with the deal in place. Like, they knew he was going to Kelowna to compete for that Memorial Cup. Mm-hmm. And that's where that was where you saw the first flashes of Leon Draisaitl. Like, I remember that Memorial Cup that he played in with Kelowna the next year so vividly for me because of, the following draft that happened, because I became a major CHL fan. So yeah, that's the Leon story in a nutshell though.
Yes, just for no reason. Just, I'm just tuning into this random Kelowna Rockets game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kelowna Rockets. They also produced Tyler Myers and Luke Shen.
So. Yeah, they did.
2 legends.
Leon's better, but yes.
Okay. Let me have this. All right. Mm-hmm. Let me have this and seethe with Tyler Myers' contract and the one that we won't be able to sign Luke Shen to because I will do it first. Anyway, 2015, the big one. Oh yeah. Also note about Anze Kopitar. He did reach over 80 points. He reached 81 in 09-10 and 92 in 17-18.
Yeah.
And also, he accounts for all of the points for active players from Slovenia because he's the only one, which is 1,141. So,
oh my God. Well, yeah. Good for Anze. Leon will never be as good defensively as Anze is because Leon frankly, at some points, just does not care. But
Oh yeah.
he had 128 points this year. So, and he scored 50 goals in back-to-back seasons. So,
Yeah.
good
And
play.
he's also just like the personality that every NHL star needs because
Yeah,
he's
I know. I
he's
love him.
unironically hilarious.
Unironically hilarious.
Like
I love him.
unintentionally too. Like
Absolutely.
like he'll just be mad and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, that's hilarious." But it is. Um
Absolutely.
yeah, 2015, continuing on. Buffalo was last in the
Mm-hmm.
NHL, and this was the Mick Eichel year. That's a mouthful to say. The Oilers were third last, and Arizona was between them in the draft lottery. They had to actually change it this year, I believe. This was the year they changed it, right? Because Edmonton kept getting
I
first
believe
overall.
it was after
It
this
was
year
after, so it was
because
2016 then.
yeah, like the
Yeah.
Taylor or the Nail Yakupov draft, that third one, that they were like, oh, they got a bust. Who cares? This draft after the Oilers won, there was genuine animosity. Like people were not happy at all. Like go around if you ever want to do something fun. Go on YouTube, type 2015 draft lottery reaction. I don't know if you've ever
Oh
done that
God.
before. And there are a ton of videos of because the Leafs are right there. Like they finished third last or fourth last. There's Leafs fans and Sabres fans, most notably,
Yeah.
reacting to the draft lottery, and the absolute anger that followed was unbelievable. There's some of my favorite videos of all time going back. And then you see Oilers fans too reacting. And, I was one of them. Obviously, don't have a YouTube video of it, but no, that draft was wild because obviously Buffalo, and that's the reason why I said Anders Lindback before, because he was the worst goal in the NHL at the time. Buffalo signed Anders Lindback that year because he was so bad, just to sabotage their season as much as they could in order to get the best odds at Connor McDavid. Erie was like 2 hours away from Buffalo, or I think it's less than that. But Tim, whatever the guy, I can't even remember the general manager's name of Buffalo at the time. Tim something. He was at the games every day watching McDavid. They were drooling over him. They were salivating. There are Buffalo Sabres fans with McDavid jerseys already. Like the hype for
Oh
Connor
my God.
McDavid.
Oh my
Like
God.
I don't know if it's because the Oilers were bad at the time and I was paying more attention to the draft, but I feel like the Connor McDavid hype was unprecedented. Like I don't know if the Connor Bedard hype has touched the Connor McDavid hype, just in terms of mass media coverage. Like I remember you see highlights of Bedard more than you see at any other prospect. Like it definitely is on the same level. And again, I don't know because again, maybe because the Oilers were good this year, I wasn't really paying attention to that kind of stuff. Like I didn't even really care about the World Juniors. The Oilers didn't really have any prospects. And it was Reed Schaefer. Who else? But Reed Schaefer was traded for Ekholm, so who cares?
Yeah.
But like that was the most hype. I remember April 18th, 2015. To this day, I haven't changed it since grade 7, or not grade 7, since grade 9 when they won the draft lottery. Though the numbers for the Connor McDavid draft lottery are in my Instagram bio. Like they've just been there for I've never taken them out.
Oh my
And
gosh.
people all the time are like, what are those? What are those? I'm like, they're my lucky numbers, man. Like I remember I couldn't watch the draft lottery. I just didn't think the Oilers were gonna win. Didn't think. I was out for dinner that night. I remember I was in Calgary walking downtown. I pulled up my phone. I just got the TSN notification. I was screaming, running down the road. Like people were coming out of their houses. I remember, I'm in Calgary. It was
Yeah.
pandemonium. It was like when Sidney Crosby scored the goalie goal. Like that was the level of celebration that was happening because this was the first guy who was touted as as good as Sidney Crosby. Like even if you go back and look at the Connor McDavid projections, like Connor McDavid has exceeded every projection for him that there was when he was drafted. Like no one thought he would be this good. I think the hope was that he would be as good as Sidney Crosby, have a couple hundred and something point season. Obviously, scoring's gone up, so that's partially why. But like, he has been like in my eyes, and again, bias as hell. He is the third best player to ever play hockey. Like, not even you can't even argue. Like I can sit here and I would argue that he's the best player of all time, but like obviously that's a lot harder to do. But I think
Yeah.
saying he's the third best player of all time is pretty unanimous, or pretty widely accepted. But that
Who's
hype is
second?
unbelievable.
Is it
Gretzky.
Crosby? Gretzky's
There,
second?
no, no, I think Gretzky, Lemieux, McDavid.
Okay. Okay.
Like
I was
that's what
like,
I think.
yeah, makes sense. Makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Yep. So
Um,
that's that.
yeah, I do think he is definitely the best player currently.
Oh my
100%,
god, yeah.
100%, and that's coming from an Elias Pettersson fan. So, uh, And, Vancouver fans tend to claim that he's the best. Anyway, moving
Yeah.
on to 2015.
Yeah.
We'll get more into the Connor McDavid hype a bit later,
Okay.
because that's kind of what the
And
focus is.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll speed up these things now because like those were the ones that mattered. These ones are,
These ones don't matter as much. Yeah, so speed round 2016, Toronto was last, Edmonton was second last, Vancouver was third last. Toronto
Yeah.
gets Austin Matthews. Winnipeg moved from 6th to 2nd for Laine. Columbus moves from 4th to 3rd for Dubois, which means that Edmonton drafts Puljujarvi 4th overall. He is now with the Carolina Hurricanes and in the second round. Vancouver drafts somebody 5th overall, and Calgary drafts Matthew Tkachuk. we don't talk about 2016. 2017, they lost in the second round. They drafted 22nd overall Kyler Yamamoto. 2018, Edmonton finished 23rd, so they had the 9th seed. Carolina moved from 11th to 2nd for Andrei Svechnikov, which means Edmonton drafted Evan Bouchard, 10th overall. 2019, Edmonton had the 7th seed, and there was a lot of moving around. Basically, in the end, Edmonton gets Philip Broberg, 8th overall. There's a lot of movement that draft. Chicago went from 12th to 3rd, and I didn't know that, but it's for Kirby Dach, who's no longer with them, so it's fine. And yeah, I was like looking for Ottawa's pick too, because I was making lists of all the Canadian teams, and then I was like, oh right, yeah, Matt Duchene was a Senator. He's a wild man. 2020 loses qualifying round. Dylan Holloway 14th overall. 2021 lost in the first round. 22nd overall, lost conference finals last year to Colorado. Reed Schaefer, who was traded with Tyson Berry for Matthias Ekholm for the playoffs. And
exactly.
it was actually the pick that was traded for Darcy Kemper. Then it went to Arizona, then to Edmonton for Cassian, and then to
Yes. I'm glad you spelled that out because I would have not remembered that. But yeah, that Cassian contract is the worst contract in the NHL. That guy had 1 goal, I think, this entire year, and he was getting scratched by the Arizona Coyotes, and he is still signed for another year. Thank you, Ken Holland.
Worst contract in the end. I feel like Vancouver could give a run for your money. For a few players.
Yeah, that's probably fair. That's
probably
fair.
Now, is playoff success correlated to draft success or draft lottery success? Absolutely not.
No. Absolutely not. Like we've seen, like the Oilers have missed the playoffs with the 2 best players in the world. Like you could get all the draft picks that you want if you don't surround them with talent, because you're not going to be able to pick a star with every single pick. I know every team, every fan likes to think, oh, my prospects are the best. Oh, you'll list like I like me right now. I can say, oh, the Oilers got Raphael Lavoie and Xavier Bourgault and all these guys, and every other fan just be like, who the hell is that? But in my head, they're bona fide NHL players that are just right at the surface. Every team thinks they have those guys, and you always get those like harsh reality checks when eventually they don't pan out, right? So you look at like Chicago's list with right now with Connor Bedard obviously being at the top, even though he hasn't been drafted yet. And then they have Lucas Reichel, who will be a good NHL player, Kevin Korchinski, who will be a NHL defenseman. It's just a matter of, is he a top pairing defenseman? Is he a top 6 defenseman? Like that's the stuff you really can't project. Is he a Tyson Barrie or is he a Kel McCarr? Like you just don't know. It's really, really tough. And I've seen the Oilers for so many years rely on the draft picks. Like I was saying earlier, you put them in too young. You don't surround them with the right players. It's such a finicky thing, and it's something I've realized, watching the team who's had all those high draft picks over the last, 10, 15 years. It is so hard to just build out of the draft. You need to do stuff like, oh man, what's a good team? Like, and I know the Rangers is probably a bad example. I'm going to use the LA Kings as my rebuild example. I don't have a lot of rebuilds off the top of my head, but their team, those guys, they kept Kopitar, they kept Doughty, they had Quick obviously until he started shitting the bed. They kept guys around who were on the team when they were good, and obviously even though they're just a few stars left now, they infuse them with youth, missing the playoffs for I think only 2 or 3 years, like not a significant time sucking, and they're kind of right back at being good again. Like you need the most important thing is scouting. Obviously, like you need to have like guys who can make the picks beyond the first round. Like that's one of the number one things. I think the Oilers for over the last like 10 years, like in 2011, they had Eric Gustafson. They picked him in the fourth round. Never played a game for them, but that was like the only late round pick they made in like 10 years that actually played in the NHL. Yeah, him and Tyler Pitlick. Like that's literally it. Every other player that they took literally was nothing, right? So you need to have that, and you need to be able to surround them with like free agents, trades, whatever. And obviously, you need to have a competent GM and not like Peter Chiarelli or whatever making decisions for you because that's going to go wrong really fast. But yeah, no, you definitely just draft lottery success doesn't mean jack shit. Like straight up, doesn't mean anything. So yeah, long-winded way of saying that.
Yeah, it does not matter. Being successful in the draft does not matter. Even Dallas, who, cleared up the 2017 draft, they are just now, after 7 games, getting to the Western Conference Final this year. They won. Yeah, sorry, I like 20 minutes ago I forgot to mention it, but we're recording this as Dallas just beat Seattle. So we're getting the Southern State narrative this year.
I'm cheering for Vegas.
That's for Vegas?
I've actually just decided I'm cheering for Vegas.
Really?
Yeah, because then back-to-back years the Oilers would have lost to the Cup champs. So like I feel like that's like pretty notable and like, hey, look, you lost to the Cup champs in back-to-back years. You have a ton of good stuff going for you. Like it's coming.
You know what that kind of sounds like? That sounds like when I heard Leafs fans saying last year after Tampa lost to Colorado, oh, we're basically the second best team or the third best team in the NHL.
Yeah, absolutely. But to be fair to the Oilers, like that Colorado team they lost to was just like the best, one of the best teams of the Cap era. Like flat out, they were the better team. Like there was never stiff that series. This game with Vegas, that was obviously a way more finicky in depth. Like you could go in a million reasons why they lost, but if they lost to me, the best team, I'm not saying the Oilers are the second best team, but like, no one else could beat the Cup champs. Like you're in that same boat. I don't know. That's my like making myself just try and feel better though.
What would your thought be if Jack Eichel got a cup before Connor McDavid?
I wouldn't care. Like it doesn't mean anything to me. Like cool. Like should we have picked Jack Eichel over Connor McDavid? No. Then exactly. Like Jack Eichel is the most like he's a middle of the pack number one center. Like I think he's just about like I don't even know. Like some people think he he was phenomenal in the series against Edmonton. Like outstanding, best hockey he's played in his career. But like up until that point, I was hearing people say like, "Oh, Jack Eichel might be overpaid. Jack Eichel might be a little overpaid. Like is he actually worth $10.5 million cap hit that he has? Like I don't know. I just wouldn't care at all. Like he's such a different beast. Put Jack Eichel, replace the Oilers like McDavid with Eichel, and they don't make the playoffs. So
yeah, true. Speaking of missing the playoffs, that's what the Oilers did from 2007 to 2016. So 9 years, if my math is correct.
Yep, that's the decade of darkness. 10.
The decade of darkness, yeah. Yes. 2017, they lost in the second round. 2018 and 2019 both missed the playoffs. 2020 lost the qualifying bubble round to Chicago.
Yeah.
2021 lost in the first round. They were swept by Winnipeg in the Canadian division. 2022, they lost in the conference finals where they were swept by the eventual Cup champions. So you can't feel terrible about it. 2023, yesterday, they lost in 6 to Vegas.
I think the Oilers are weird though with in regards to other teams who kind of came up like in the early 2000s. There's a significant gap in there, like a 2-year gap where the Oilers kind of got screwed. Like, okay, coming out of that 2017 playoff run, Peter Chiarelli made a number of horrible decisions, and that set the franchise back. And obviously, you can see that in them missing the next playoffs the next 2 years. Obviously, he was fired, replaced by Ken Holland. Has Ken Holland made a lot of bad moves? Absolutely. Ken Holland's made a bunch of horrible moves. Ken Holland also has made some pretty decent moves. Like I'm not a flat out full Ken Holland hater. I think he could have done a lot better. I think if they were focused more on analytics, he could have been a lot better. But like Peter Chiarelli cost Connor McDavid a cup with the moves that he made in 2017, flat out when he was on his ELC. That the Lucic deal, trading Jordan Eberle, buying out Benoit Pouliot. buying out Andre Sekera. There were just so many different things that they did that they didn't have to do. The Jordan Eberle one was the worst because that playoff run, the Oilers took Anaheim Ducks to 7 games. Like they were so close to breaking through. They had, I believe, a 3-1 lead in that series. They were up 3-0 in a game where they could have closed them out, and the Ducks scored 3 goals in the last 3 minutes of a playoff game to come back and win it in overtime. Double OT. Corey Perry scored, I believe.
Oh.
And yeah, no, it was really tough. But again, that's that playoffs. Their second line, Lucic, Nugent Hopkins, Everly, they combined for, I believe, 1 goal out of the 3 of them in all those, 6 games of San Jose, 7 games against Anaheim. Kind of a very similar story to what happened this year. And they ended up seeing that, and their genius moves. Oh, Everly sucks in the playoffs. He's too soft, can't finish. So they traded him to the Islanders for Ryan Strome, and then it just began that reverse. Oh well, let's trade Jordan Eberle for Ryan Strome. Ryan Strome for Ryan Spooner. Ryan Spooner for Sam Gagner. Sam Gagner for Andre for 2 seconds for Andreas Athanasiou, and Andreas Athanasiou, they didn't qualify him, and he walked as a Yofe, and that's the Jordan Eberle trade tree. It's just literally they took a house and turned it into a paperclip.
So they thought Jordan Eberle was the problem, but they kept Lucic.
Yep, they because Lucic had a good regular season. That was the first year in Edmonton. I think he had like 50 points, and I remember the discourse is he's going to get better, he's going to get better, he's going to get better, and he fell off a cliff the next year. I remember there was a broadcast that did a Lucic goal draft because he just wouldn't score. So they drafted all 82 games, and whoever at the end of the year had the most like Lucic goals won like $1,000 or something. It was so bad, Lucic in Edmonton. He is genuinely like, I still despise him. He is one of the worst players I've ever watched wear an Edmonton Oilers jersey. Like, he was so bad. Like you said, I said Evander Kane couldn't pass with with the injuries that he had. Milan Lucic was the slowest player. You could tell he absolutely hated his life living in Edmonton. He did not care. He didn't want to be there. I think his teammates hated him. It was the worst situation. Obviously, he okayed a deal to Calgary, and he said in his exit interview, Calgary, oh, you made hockey fun again. I'm like, oh my God, I can't even get a load of this guy. Get a load of this bozo. Every time they chanted Luch when he was on the forecheck, I'm like, you guys don't even know. They always traded. That was a good kind of move. They traded Lucic for James Neal. James Neal has scored like 20, I believe, either 27 or 17 goals for the Oilers that next year. A little bit of a McDavid merchant, but no, he did really well in the Edmonton Oilers in that first year. Then they bought him out, and that was the goal of the deal: get cap space by buying out James Neal because Lucic had an unbuyoutable contract. I can go down rabbit holes with this shit. I don't even know what you said. I was just talking about Milan Lucic, and I hate him. Like that's why I went down.
Does he have you blocked on Twitter?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought he did. I was blocked by Zach Cassian. That I could tell you. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I've been blocked by Cassian. I don't even. He was a name searcher though. Anyone who name searches block me. I'm not an adder. I don't at people, but I'm blocked. I'm blocked by a lot of the Edmonton media, like Ryan Rishaug, blocked. Mark Spector, blocked.
Okay.
Like yeah.
It's Mark Spector. Sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, wow. I know like the most name searching stuff we have. I know Quinn Hughes' mom's name searches, but I'm pretty sure she just does it for Quinn. Because every time she retweets something, it's usually Quinn. So
that's funny.
Yeah. Like there's 2 other
positive,
ones.
Though. At least it's positive. Cassian goes and finds people shitting on him and then gets in fights with them. And it was
Bo Horvat and Spencer Martin also did this year. They hate tweets about themselves.
I don't understand that, but like
they don't respond. They just like it. Like it's the most unhinged stuff.
Well, you know what? I actually kind of respect that because for me, I've never experienced hate until game 1 of the first round of the playoffs this year. My episode of Game Over with Audie had over 100 comments on it, and it was all LA Kings fans just shitting on me, and that's why I had to go to Game Over neutral because these guys are like, you're so biased, you're an idiot, you're a fucking dumbass, you don't respect the Kings, blah blah blah. And I was in there, and then after the series, I went back into the comments in like my moderator SDPN account, just calling, "What happened? What happened?" to all the fans. And because they were all shitting on me. The Kings are so good. Mick regular season, I'm like, dog, he is like the 3rd highest points per game of all time in the playoffs. But continue.
Yeah. Continue with I was about to roast Alex Edler, but I can't because, Canucks legend. But who? Drew Doughty. Stay with Drew Doughty. Whatever, him. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm not a Drew Doughty fan.
No, neither am I.
Yeah.
Sucks. I'm not an Alex Edler fan. Neo need Connor McDavid twice.
Yeah, he kind of had a problem doing that, but Eagle. Anyway, he was the last of the 2011 Cup run.
That's fair.
To be playing for the Canucks, and then they traded him. Or no, they let him walk, I believe. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
That sounds like a betting move. Yeah, because that was the summer of Markstrom, I believe.
Ah,
or the
yes.
summer after.
It
was the summer after. It was the year after. Yeah.
Yeah, for like
he went to
LA
LA
mid or something. Yeah.
Yeah, because he signed. Yeah, he signed for 1 year. Yeah, for last season, and then his first game at Rogers Arena, back there, was also Bruce Boudreau's first game as Canucks head coach. So.
Oh well, that's I didn't see that tying itself together the way it did, but that's really cool. That's really interesting.
Yeah, sorry, no, I just remember.
It's all good. I'm the same way.
We shut out we shut out the Kings 4-0, and that was Demko's last shutout before we shut out Chicago earlier in March. Yeah,
you guys really played yourselves really bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're not great. Speaking of not great, how to be not great? You also get rewarded in this league. American sports are weird because they don't do relegation. In most leagues, which I feel like sometimes I think they should, because there's some AHL.
I'm against relegation.
Really?
Oh my god, yeah. The Oilers would be an ECHL team if relegation existed.
True. The Canucks would be they would be in the.
Have they ever finished dead last?
Actually, I don't know. I don't
think so.
So
the Oilers have.
Yeah, multiple. We've covered that.
Yeah, exactly.
Multiple times. The Canucks have wanted to finish dead last, and then this year we had Andre Kuzmenko. Who knows what else is going to happen? But yeah,
so close to being an Oiler.
So close. Oh yeah, because they went to Joey's. I actually didn't know what Joey's was. Until
they not only did they bring him to Joey's, they gave him a signed Wayne Gretzky jersey.
Oh, that's the real taker. He could get that at the mall signing he did, because he does he's done a couple signings at a mall in Vancouver suburb area, Surrey, and they literally have probably a signed Wayne Gretzky jersey there.
Well, they always tried to bribe him.
They tried. But we have we don't need heated driveways.
That's fair. Very good point. I wouldn't want to live in Edmonton either. So
yes. Anyway, if you're at the bottom of the league, you have a better chance of getting a top 10 pick. Now, Canada, there's been a narrative of no cups. Funnily enough, the most Canadian team in the NHL right now is the Vegas Golden Knights, because they have the most Canadians in the league. Which is hilarious. In the amount of top 10 picks since 2010 that each team has received, Calgary has 3. So, obviously, Matthew Tkachuk, Sean Monahan, and Sam Bennett, previously mentioned, 4th overall. That was their highest pick. Ottawa's has 4. Their highest pick was 3rd in 2020 with Tim Stützle. Toronto, obviously, they have 4. Highest pick being Austin Matthews. Soon to be Arizona Coyote.
No, he's going to be a Leaf forever.
Yeah. No, I want Mitch Marner to be a Leaf forever, but I have a feeling they're going to try.
I don't care about Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner can kick rocks. Austin Matthews should and will be a Toronto Maple Leaf forever.
Yeah, he should. Justin got to pull out all the stops. I hope Justin Bieber makes a pink Leafs jersey. This is unrelated. I just want that personally. Montreal has 5. They got
suck.
First. They got their best player honestly right now was a 15th overall.
The most overhyped organization in sports is the Montreal Canadiens. Genuinely, they're garbage. Think about it. They drafted Uri Slafkovsky 1st overall. The biggest layup of all time in that draft. Could have taken anyone. You literally could have taken anyone. You picked the 400-pound Czech guy who just so many problems with him. I think he's Czech. I really think he's Czech. Might not be. Or Slovak, maybe.
I think he's Slovak.
Well.
I mean, they were the same country at one point. They're just
there you go.
They were different countries when he was born, though, I think.
Yeah. Nick Suzuki, so overrated. Cole Caulfield, he's all right. He's all right. Gives me Alex DeBrincat vibes, like that's
Just
what
because
I
he's
get.
short?
Yeah, short,
Yeah.
scores a lot of goals. Like
Because Timber could score a
that's
lot
as
of
far as my
goals.
scouting goes. Well, this year no, but like in the
Yeah.
past, yeah.
Yeah, in the past, yeah.
Yeah, again, during 2015, I was a flat out full-fledged Erie Otters fan. I watched every Erie Otters game after they got that first round pick. I remember the playoff run. I remember watching Cole Castles shut down Connor McDavid, Canucks legend Cole Castles. I think wasn't he Cole Castles?
Cole Castles?
From the Oshawa Generals. He was the guy tasked. He was there. Philip Deneau. He was tasked with shutting down Connor McDavid in the OHL final.
Oh,
And
yeah, he was drafted by the Canucks
yes,
85th overall in 2013.
yep. And I remember he was the guy to shut him down in the final, and that's why Connor McDavid never went to the Memorial Cup. Otherwise, we would have had Connor McDavid versus Leon Draisaitl at the Memorial Cup, but it never happened. Because Cole Castles, and even Darnell Nurse, he was the guy who McDavid. He was on. I keep saying Oshawa. I don't even know. They lost to Sault Ste. Marie. They lost to Oshawa. Darnell Nurse played against Connor McDavid too. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was Oshawa. He played for Oshawa, and then his Wikipedia page is actually in Uzbek, which is interesting.
Yeah.
He most recently played for in the AHL with Cleveland, I believe. Cole Castles, yes.
He was supposed to be good. I remember Canucks fans really liked him, and then he just kind of fell off the face of the earth.
Oh yeah, that's Canucks.
As Canucks prospects kind of do.
Yep.
But
yeah, I'm aware.
But again, I watched Alex DeBrincat. I watched Dylan Strome. I watched all those guys. I could rattle off that Erie Otters roster. It was so weird. Remy Ellie, all these guys who were never made the NHL. But I watched Alex DeBrincat. I watched Cole Caulfield. I wanted the Oilers to take Cole Caulfield. That's what I wanted over Philip Broberg. If you look at my Twitter, I tweet, "Oh, you can get Caulfield here. You can get Caulfield here," and they chose Philip Broberg. But so overhyped. And like the Oilers in their last 5 years have had two players who are better than any player who's ever played for the Montreal Canadiens history, and they all like, oh, we're so big, we're so good, we're so famous. You won a million cups and they're like 3 teams in the NHL. You had a really good team in the 70s when 19 teams out of 22 made the playoffs or some shit, and then you had like PK Subban and Carey Price in the mid 2000s. Like, I'm sorry, you guys are so overhyped. Like I just can't. I can't. Montreal Canadiens drive me nuts. I like the Leafs. Canadiens.
Yeah, that was me. I was scrolling on TikTok earlier today, and there was a Montreal fan talking about
like delusional.
Like, yeah, no, they were at Scotiabank Arena, and they were sitting on like the bench where the Leafs lost the other night or something like that. They had text in the video, and it was admittedly a little funny, but at the same time, all the comments, she said she was a Habs fan, all the comments were just like, you wasted Carey Price, like they were just going after them as a Habs fan. It's just
delusional. I can't stand them, but nevertheless.
You know who their second highest picks were? They got 5th overall this year, but third, Alex Galchenyuk and Jesperi Kotkaniemi.
Yeah, see, exactly. Overhyped, garbage, can't stand him. Anyways, Galchenyuk was a 30-goal guy, and then he kind of fell off the face of the earth. Kotkaniemi got offer-sheeted by Carolina, LOL, and he's actually been really good, scored some big goals for them in the playoffs. So, you know what? Again, Habs just another L. What can you do?
They just keep taking L's. Anyway, even though that's not the letter that's in their logo, which I didn't know there was an H until I was like 20.
Yeah. Well, it's there.
Habs. It's there. Habs. Yeah, I really did not understand that. Even though I sat through the entire Canadian history lecture in grade 5. I don't remember. Anyway, Winnipeg has the tied for second, technically, most top 10 picks since 2010. Their highest was second in 2016, obviously, with Patrick Laine, who got turned into Dubois, who got turned into future considerations to the from the Montreal Canadiens.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh God! All right, they're gonna get another overhyped player. Sorry.
Exactly. No, it's true. Watch, he's gonna go be the most. They're the most like mid team of all time. Like just literally mid. Like that's it. Montreal Mid-Adians. I don't even know.
I can't hate because like that's been the Canucks for aside from a few years, that's
Well,
been most of the Canucks' over
I
50-year history.
I
So
throw stones from glass houses. I don't care.
Vancouver would have had 7 top 10 picks, but no, they traded 9th overall in 2021 for OEL and Garland to Arizona for who drafted Dylan Gunther. Aside from that, we have 6. The highest we've drafted was 5th overall in 2016 and 2017. 2017, we drafted Elias Pettersson. And moving on, Edmonton, highest, obviously, first in
For
2010,
facts.
2011, 2012, and 2015.
Mm-hmm.
They have 9 top 10 picks.
Yeah, and I like they were all in the organization from 2013 to 2023 this year. They were all in the organization up until when they traded Jesse Puljujarvi, obviously, because that just didn't work out. And he is a really good player, and when he gets he'll get a 1-year deal somewhere for $1 million. He'll end up being an effective third or fourth liner. But yeah, no, like obviously those picks didn't really correlate to much playoff success until they finally surrounded them with, Zach Hyman's and Evander Kane and some free agent signings and a decent goalie and takes development and Derek Ryan and all these other guys, and they needed everything to hit. And you also needed players outside of the first round to hit. That was the big thing I said before. They always had no one out of the first round hit. Now Ryan McLeod, second round pick, phenomenal third line center. Stuart Skinner, third round pick. He's their starting goalie this year, despite having a sub-average or subpar playoffs. Yeah, it takes a lot. Those picks helped, but the 4 first overall picks, 2 of them were gone by 2016, right? Nugent Hopkins has sticked all this time, and I'm praying Connor McDavid sticks, but we'll see, but he will.
Yeah. He has 3 years left. 3 years left on his deal. Draisaitl has 2. I know this is kind of off topic. Do you think Draisaitl stays in Edmonton?
I think it's I think it's likely. What a lot of people cite to Draisaitl. He was from Germany. He was drafted in the CHL European draft, so he could have gone to any city. And a lot of the top guys, in their meetings with scouts before say, I don't want to go to this team. If this team picks me, I will not go there. Why do you think if you look at the Halifax Mooseheads, they get every international player like Nico Hischier. I believe Juraj Slafkovsky was a Halifax Moosehead property. Every high-ranking draft-eligible player, they want to go to Halifax, and they tell every other team they will not sign with them, so Halifax gets them. Right? Yeah, so Leon Draisaitl could have done that. And the notorious in the CHL, the 2 worst teams that no one wanted to play for are the Prince Albert Raiders. I don't know if you know much about Prince Albert. It is a horrible place to live. I've
heard of it.
3 seconds there, you need to get a hepatitis shot because there are needles all over.
I've heard it's
everywhere.
Isn't it the second highest crime index in Canada, or is that Lethbridge?
So. Well, Lethbridge is definitely up there. I know that, but I believe
Prince Albert is also. I know Surrey is number 1.
Yes, I know Prince Albert is up there, and I know my brother. He had a bunch. He plays hockey, and he had a bunch of friends who went through the draft process here, and all of them said, "I will not sign with you to the Prince Albert scout." Flat out told them they will not go.
Oh my God.
There are a ton of players who will not go to Prince Albert. That's why they're so bad. That's why Draisaitl had no one there. But Leon said, "Nope. I will go. I will stick there. I will sit there." And he never said a bad word. And he was in Prince Albert, obviously, until the Oilers got him traded to Kelowna. A lot of people say the Oilers have shown him that he did that. He was willing to stick it out. The Oilers, obviously, he's underpaid now. He will get a blank check. If he stays, Connor McDavid will stay. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. That's the check. If once Draisaitl comes up, they're going to try and sign him July 1st to whatever he wants, and you give it to him. And I really do think he stays again. He's from Germany, and also this is the other thing, and I could go on it because I have this conversation a lot because everyone's like, "Oh, they're leaving."
Yeah.
But Draisaitl's a multimillionaire. He's 27 years old. He's from Germany. He has a house in Spain. He lives all over Europe. He can anywhere he wants. In August last year, Leon Draisaitl could be anywhere in the world. He's the only guy. He's back in Edmonton training with the guys who are on the rookie team. He's in Edmonton starting in August before anyone. Like he is the captain of the Edmonton Oilers more than like Connor McDavid, to be honest with you. Like he is the leader in terms of just going there and helping everyone and doing like what captains, normally do. Like Connor McDavid obviously is a skill, but Leon Draisaitl is an Edmonton Oiler. Like I truly believe he loves it there. And he lives in Spain in the off season. So
he can do what he wants to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Now, draft lottery this year was kind of interesting. Just gonna touch on it for a second. Apparently Anaheim was snubbed again, and after the abysmal season they had, I feel bad for them. Mason McTavish probably is playing some Taylor Swift right now. He was texting Bedard every time that the Ducks lost. They probably get Adam Fantilli. Is that a good enough consolation prize?
Yeah.
He's decent.
If they're smart, if they build around it.
Yeah, if they don't treat him terribly, it will be fine. It will be perfectly fine. If they don't do an Arizona to what they do with their prospects. So Chicago obviously won the draft lottery. Anaheim also, fun fact, you know how they didn't have any regulation wins for the longest time? But they had one. Yeah, in the end of the season, out of 82 games, they had 13 regulation wins.
Oh my god, that's so bad.
Yeah.
Well, they need help.
They truly need help. And hey, maybe it'll come with Troy Terry being named captain next year. Who knows? But Chicago did win the draft lottery, their original 6 team. They got back the money they were fined from the Kyle Beach situation in hours through season ticket sales. So, yeah, that's
funny.
Yeah, the NHL totally they
I didn't
totally
think of
punished
it that
them.
way.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
think of it that way, but that is very funny.
Yeah. Arizona got punished more, by the way, for holding their own scouting combine. So
yeah.
They last drafted first overall in 2007 with Patrick Kane, who was touted as the greatest American player of all time. I don't really believe that, but at the same time, I'm a little biased because Patrick Kane also crushed my dreams when I was a child with the Chicago Blackhawks. He was evidently traded to the New York Rangers and cost them the playoffs this year in the first round with New Jersey because of his missing hip that he left somewhere in O'Hare International. And yeah, so that is what is going on with the draft lottery this year. Connor Bedard, who is going to be first overall. He has been projected to be first overall for many, 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 many years. I don't want to say many years because that sounds like ancient. He's like an 05 kid.
I remember hearing about him forever. I think even my brother played against him. He was forever you've known about him. Similar to McDavid. I remember there's a story about Sam Gagner playing on with Connor McDavid when he was 12 years old, and he's like, "Yeah, this guy David O'Connor, he's gonna be so good." And I think it was similar with Connor Bedard. Everyone knew about him forever.
It's like a Mitch Marner getting City News athlete of the week when he was 4. It's totally different. But anyway, Connor Bedard is going to be first overall. In relation to Chicago's last first overall pick, many years ago, he likes Patrick Kane's hair, so that was one thing, because, that was an article going around. Anyway, enough about hair. Connor Bedard is touted as a generational player, similar to how Connor McDavid was hyped up in 2015. Now, we've touched on this a bit already, but can you encapsulate... Okay, I'm going to give you a challenge. Try and get together in one word what the hype around McDavid was like in 2015 once you guys knew you had first overall.
Pandemonium.
Pandemonium.
Wild. Yeah.
Wild, yeah. Because, there's this kid, he's been touted as the best new NHL player, you said since Crosby, which Sidney Crosby at the time, he had only one Stanley Cup in 2015 because they didn't win until the other two until 2016, 2017, and what Jim Rutherford calls the glory days. But so Sidney Crosby, I feel like also there might be a Canadian bias here.
You think?
You think. Because, Connor McDavid, obviously, first overall goes to Edmonton. you said that you don't see as much hype with Connor Bedard, whereas like I saw a bunch of it,
Yeah.
but a lot of it was people joking,
Hmm.
admittedly. But there was really no team that was truly in the bottom 10, because we're 11th.
Yes.
Montreal is like 5th, but they drafted first overall last year.
Hmm.
As well, um, Ottawa traded their pick to
Yeah.
Arizona for Chikrin.
Oh yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that happened. So I feel like there's less hype throughout the country because back in 2015, there were a lot of bad Canadian teams. The Canucks, they actually made the playoffs that year, which was insane. We drafted 23rd. But when it comes to around that era of time, I feel like there's more hype around those type of prospects because it was, in the country of hockey.
Hmm. No, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's yeah, I think it's just again, it goes back to that season ticket letter that I talked about earlier. It's like people love hope. And I think Canada, because they're mad about hockey, like you hear prospects, you think of hope, it just gives you all that. And I just I don't know. Like I don't know. I really don't know. I wish I could give a better answer. I don't necessarily think that it's a Canadian bias, but I think it's just because we love hockey so much. It's everywhere, wherever you look, and all our teams, especially in that early like 2000, like early 2010 range, everyone sucked except for the Canucks. That was it. Every single other team sucked, right? So when the Leafs are bad as well, I think you get a lot more of that draft lottery coverage on those networks, and they were right there for Connor McDavid, and they were right there for Austin Matthews. So that's why you saw that. Like Austin Matthews, I don't think was as hyped up as Connor Bedard, but if in my eyes, Austin Matthews got more coverage than Connor Bedard. Like I remember seeing Zurich Lions games on Sportsnet before just randomly at like 2 in the afternoon because Austin Matthews is playing in the Leafs and we're tanking. Like that was the tank season for Austin Matthews. So that's why I think it is. I think just has to do with the coverage and stuff. Like that's why. Because like you said, the Canadian teams weren't bad this year, like bad to the degree that they were back in their late or early 2010s. You didn't get that coverage. That's why you see a Bedard highlight there, a Bedard highlight there. The World Junior stuff obviously is going to pop off, and everyone's like, "Oh, wouldn't it be great?" But at the end of the day, you look at who's in the bottom. It's like Anaheim, Columbus, Chicago, whatever. Like
San Jose.
Chicago, San Jose. Say three of those four are kind of non-traditional hockey markets that are relatively small. So that to me is why there was that lack of coverage. I'm sure if you were in the Chicago market, I'm sure every second day all they're doing is watching Connor Bedard Regina Pats games, right? But when you only have that like 13% chance of winning the lottery, it's really tough to let yourself believe. Like I did not think the Oilers would win for a second. Did not let myself believe at all, and they did, and I was shocked. I think that's what happened to Buffalo. They believed they were going to get Connor McDavid, and they ended up getting devastated. And I think that like set back the franchise. So Chicago obviously believed they were, or I don't know if they believed because I wasn't part of the market, but they got him, so they're set. But you need to build around him, and we'll see what happens. But that's kind of my thoughts. That's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah. Canadian bias, not really, but also the NHL on ESPN. A tweet from Troy Stetcher, Troy from
Mm-hmm.
Richmond, Canucks legend. He was watching the Edmonton game yesterday. Clap emoji, ESPN missed 3 goals in the opening 3 minutes of an elimination NHL playoff game because we had to finish out a 9-1 MLB blowout.
Yeah.
So if you want to know why there might not be as much hype in these smaller markets, maybe ESPN is the problem.
Absolutely. Well, they weren't even on ESPN before this year, right? I guess Connor Bedard got the hype this year, but from
Yeah.
ESPN, or that would have been where the hype would have been. But before that, it's like, oh, you're gonna have to go to the Outdoor Life channel to find NHL prospect hype. So, it's kind of hard to come by.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Chicago is like, original six. So they have some of a history. Not a good one, admittedly, but they have, I guess, cups. And what can Chicago fans expect in the coming months of this? I don't want to say draft anxiety because you know what's going to happen. You know what's happening. But
yeah.
what can they expect that may not have been there with Patrick Kane in the
Oh,
age of like minimal social media? Let's remember,
yeah.
2007, I was 4 years old. Facebook was new.
There,
Like, yeah.
it's going to be fun. They're gonna have a lot of fun this year, just watching Connor Bedard play. But at the same time, you look at even the Oilers when Connor McDavid went to those. Look at the Oilers roster in 2015-16 and Connor McDavid's rookie year. If genuinely, if a potato was the general manager, they would have won a Stanley Cup, and they just didn't make any trades. They had Oscar Klefbom, Darnell Nurse, Jordan Eberle, Taylor Hall, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. Like, you go down the list, and there's just a bunch of stars there. Patrick Maroon was on that team. Like, they had a ton of guys who, if they just did nothing, they would have won a Stanley Cup and they would have went really far in the playoffs. But they kept making trades and kept trading down and whatever. But you look at Chicago, they don't have a Leon Draisaitl. I don't know what Kevin Korchinski is, because I believe he's like their next thing. I don't think Lucas Reichel is even Ryan Nugent-Hopkins or Jordan Eberle or Taylor Hall. Like, I don't know what he is.
He is German,
to be honest. A German. So maybe he's a Draisaitl. Nah, no one's as good as Draisaitl.
Draisaitl light.
Yeah, exactly. Draisaitl AliExpress. I don't know.
He's a kid. We're bullying a child.
Exactly. Well, but yeah, like there's going to be a lot more pain because you still need to get more prospects. You need top tier talent to surround him with, and you need other players, and it's going to be a lot of pain. Like, I see Chicago fans saying, "Oh, 2025 we're back. That's the year we're back in the most." 2026. Oh, dude, I wouldn't be shocked if it's like not 2028. Like, that's the year they start to actually be competitive again, just because of the amount that they stripped down. Yes, it's awesome they got that guy, but the building back up is always the tough part. They got a really big piece, but I can tell you that really big piece can only do so much. Mm-hmm. You can put up 153 points and you'll still lose in the second round. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. And you'll barely make it past LA, who is still apparently rebuilding, and they're a playoff team.
Yeah. 870 goalie. That's what I'm just going to say.
870 goalie. Yeah. All right. Yeah, Chicago fans, it was kind of tied into, will Chicago suddenly be good? The answer is no, obviously. Edmonton has taken, last year was their best year in many, many years. In some people's lifetimes, in like the graduating class of 2025's lifetimes, which is actually insane to say. But Chicago has a long way to go. Specifically, like you said, Edmonton had core pieces already that they had drafted previous years. You can look at Toronto. Yes, they also lost in the second round to Florida, but at the same time, they had before getting first overall, they had Mitch Marner, they had William Nylander, they had Morgan Rielly, they had other picks before, getting to this point. Like, they drafted Connor McDavid 8 years ago.
Yep.
And last year was their best year of the playoffs, where they got swept in the conference finals, admittedly again by Colorado, but still.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, the Oilers are different, and I think they're right on the cusp of winning here, and eventually that'll happen. Like, again, I hate being this guy, but you look at Alex Ovechkin, it's come like 18 years or something stupid or whatever to win that, not 18, like 15 years or 14 years to win that Stanley Cup. Crosby is the outlier. Mario Lemieux, Steve Yzerman, all these guys, it took them 7, 8, 9, 10 years to actually win. Connor McDavid is in that class of player. Connor Bedard's in that class of player. It's just up to Kyle Davidson. Like, it's a tough task building back up. We've seen Edmonton fail rebuilds time and time again. Buffalo fail rebuilds time and time again. The Canucks kind of fail to rebuild, right?
Rebuild. But that doesn't exist here. The word rebuild doesn't exist here. It's a retool.
That's fair. That's fair. But when you get rid of all those, when you got rid of Kessler and Burrows and all those guys, like, to me, that's what I thought the rebuild was starting. But I don't know. Like, you see teams fail to build back up. You can beat Dallas and get lucky in a draft and have pick a star goalie, star defenseman, and a star forward in the first 3 rounds of a draft or whatever, first 2 rounds. But like, that doesn't happen. You need to be so smart. You need to be so patient. Like, it's a tough process. Buffalo and Edmonton are the two picture-perfect examples of why doing what Chicago did is so risky. If you tear it down to the studs, it takes so long to build it back up again. So, yeah.
I'd say the same thing for Anaheim, but at the same time, like, they do also have a pretty decent...
And that's because they've been bad for so long.
Bad for many years.
They got your Jamie Drysdale, you got Trevor Zegras, you got Mason McTavish, and that's just for being bad for 4 years. And that's kind of... The Oilers were bad since 2010. When 2015 came, they have 5 years of first overall picks accumulated and high second round picks, and could have even had Matt Barzal on that team, but they traded for Griffin Reinhart, who played he played 20 games and then signed with the Shenzhen Tigers in the KHL.
That was a time. That was a you could have had Matt Barzal.
Could have.
Could have had Matt Barzal. I still think about that draft sometimes and how insane that was.
It's the best draft of all time. 2015 was stacked.
Yeah, it was the best draft of all time because that's when the Canucks got Brock Besser, and they will still have him this year. Anyway, I am very afraid that they're going to trade him at all moments of my days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Anyway.
I've been there.
Yes. Well, who have they almost traded?
Not almost traded. I remember, almost traded Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. I could tell you that for sure.
Was it the Taylor Hall, Adam Larson 1-for-1?
Oh my God, that was one of the worst days. I was 15 years old. I was in tears. I remember sitting at the Calgary airport getting the notification. Like, Taylor Hall was my second favorite player, and he was traded for a guy who I didn't know who he was. And it was pretty sad. Very sad. And that was the time when that was the Subban for Weber deal went down. The Stamkos signing, and it all happened within like 45 minutes.
Oh yeah, the Subban Stamkos interference that Jim Benning got us fined for.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was oh God, he was a great GM.
Yeah. Oh my God.
The Canucks have been fined so many times. Like next season starts now. They really meant it and got fined $50,000 for it. The same day as the draft lottery. So that was great.
He likes to spend on stuff, I guess, just not what you would want to spend on.
Not a buyout, but cars.
Mm-hmm. And fines.
Fines, yeah. Fines. Well, we bought out Braden Holtby a couple years ago, which I thought was a dumb idea.
Yeah, I didn't even know you guys bought up Braden Holtby.
Oh, we had Braden Holtby for like a year. Like 2021, because it was supposed to be a tandem with Demko, and then Demko just basically took the starter role, but we were god awful. It was 2021, so North Division, we were god awful that year. Yeah. I was about to say, I don't even know when we drafted in the first round, but we didn't.
Oh.
Well, our first draft pick was Klimovich.
Don't know
46th overall. He plays for Abbotsford right now.
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, not right now because they're out. They're out.
Oh,
Calgary knocked them out.
Not gonna lie, I haven't paid attention to the AHL in a long time.
Yeah, I just see it on my Twitter. Just keeps going, and I'm like, okay, they're guys.
When your team is prospects and your team's bad, I mean, I get it. I was there. I was cheering for Leon Draisaitl and Darnell Nurse when they were on the Bakersfield Condors.
Yeah, we got rid of the Condors this year, actually, which I was proud. They knocked us out last year. But no, this year the Canucks kept sending down guys that I liked, like our younger guys. They sent down Vasily Podkolzin. They sent down Niels Höglander, Niels Oman as well. They just kept sending down guys, but they also brought back a lot of guys. Like Jack Rathbone just kept having to make the commute, which isn't a long commute, admittedly, but still, it's a ways. Yeah. And Seelovs came up a couple times. I don't remember who. Phil DiGiuseppe, Brisebois. There was a lot of guys we called up. Wolanin. I'm just naming names.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of guys. The Oilers had an 18-man roster. There was no cap space for call-ups. There was literally no healthy scratches for the first 3 months of the season.
That's an insane way to play hockey. And the salary cap is such a fraud thing, too.
It sucked. It was because of LTIR. They got screwed, but.
Yeah. I mean, we're already over the cap for next season, and it is May 15th. So
that's hilarious.
We're like $1 million over the cap already.
Oh my God.
And so last year, remember how the Canucks they got $0 left, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so awesome." Yeah, no, we're like 1.5 over. So they're probably going to trade the 11th overall for draft space, for cap space, and I will cry and scream about it. Anyway.
Oh my God.
It's terrible. Anyway,
I couldn't imagine.
That's
just stop watching. I couldn't. Actually, I say that, but I sat through 10 years of dog shit too. So.
I was like, the decade of despair. We're in that right now. So anything after 2011, I mean, or I guess 2015 we made the playoffs. 2020 was our year, and then Vegas destroyed all our dreams.
Same.
2020, we were so good. We beat St. Louis, and I carry that still with me. I carry that.
That was me with 2017. I remember. That is what I would think about 4 years down the road. I'm like, if only we could get back there. We would have beaten Nashville, but whatever.
If only we beat Vegas. I remember sitting there, Game 7. I was listening on my phone, and it was 0-0 for the longest time. and then they'd miss 3-0 and we lost. We have a really bad habit of losing game sevens by getting shut out at 2011. Anyway, thank you for joining me, Zach.
Yeah, no problem.
It has been
Thank you.
great talking to you.
Yeah.
And thank you for filling me in on some Edmonton Oilers lore.
Oh, well, I appreciate you listening to me ramble, because boy, did I get off topic. Like, I could just talk about Edmonton Oilers draft lore forever. It's a very fun topic of conversation for me. So I appreciate you listening. And it was a very fun time. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for joining me. Our fun fact of the day today is a bit of a 2-for-1 deal. Connor Bedard is the first player in Western Hockey League history to gain exceptional player status, meaning he was granted the opportunity at 15 to enter the league before he reached the typical minimum age for playing. In the past, this has only been granted to players in the Ontario Hockey League, for players such as Connor McDavid. He also, according to NHL.com, refused to go to Disneyland as a kid because it would interrupt his hockey playing time, and even brought a hockey stick and inline skates in order to practice on a family holiday in Hawaii. Thank you for listening to the show. You can find me personally on Twitter at RealKayame and the show at GTGPod. Hope you enjoyed. Stay safe and see you again in 3 weeks. Bye, everybody.